wedding planning podcast.
Hello, welcome back to Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Keshira of Keshira Creative Events and I'm a wedding planner.
And I'm Vicky Edwards of Spot On Ceremonies and I am a celebrant.
Well, this episode we are going to be talking about mood boards, sexy stuff and pretty stuff, and key suppliers. And then obviously we will end, as we do each episode, with 3 tips.
So mood boards, let's start there because I've got to just put my hand up right now and say I know absolutely nothing about mood boards. So what is a mood board? Why do we need them?
So mood boards are the way you can kind of gather your ideas. So I think when you look at weddings, you've probably been to weddings. When you get engaged, you're thinking, what do I want my wedding to look like? How am I going to pull this together? And that's where your mood board comes in. And that's why you create a mood board. What I would say about mood boards is it can be really overwhelming. So you need to think about what you want to focus on and make sure that you can look at everything in the world, but understand that some of the images you see on the likes of Pinterest, etc., are from shoots, not necessarily from real weddings. Okay. And some of them are in different countries and maybe not exactly where you're going to get married, but it can give you some focus. It can give you some ideas. It's a nice way to share with your partner. You could both be adding to a mood board, creating your ideas, and it's a brilliant way to share with a planner if you get a planner on board, because they can get to see what it is you want and what the feel of your day is and how you want to make everyone else feel and make your guests feel.
So although it is a sort of visual thing, actually it does translate into how things feel as well.
Yeah, and also you've got the online mood boards, like I've mentioned Pinterest already, and that's the most commonly used. But also you can make a physical pin board if you're someone that loves textures and smells and things like that. I think that can be really lovely, because if you bring together some of the materials you want in your dress or in your suit or on your tables, some of the smells that you want from your flowers or maybe your favours or candles, tastes, what do you want people to eat, what do you want the flavours to be, words and feelings, how do you want people to feel? So if you're not up for the Pinterest haul, because it, like I've said, it can be really overwhelming. There are so many images on there. Then maybe a little physical one that might be more your cup of tea.
So back in the day, being an older bird, I had a box, literally a cardboard box that I covered in beautiful paper, and I cut out images from magazines and exactly that. You're talking about textiles. I remember going to a fabric shop and having little swatches of fabric that I put in my box along with all sorts of other things. And it was if you like the old school approach, then actually it can be a really lovely memento as well.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And I think you always need to remember to go back and look at your mood board, but like I've said, be realistic with it. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, when you're looking at the different sections of your mood board, which you can do on Pinterest, you can start a mood board and you can have a section for tableware, a section for venue, a section for flowers, a section for dresses. You can make it private, you can make it public, you can share it with just your mum or just your best friend or anyone like that. But also try and keep each section to a maximum of 5 pins.
Oh, okay.
Because you can't do everything. And this is what we keep saying. We said it in the last episode. There's so much you can do in a wedding, but you don't need it all. So it's just about kind of reining yourself in a bit, maybe.
So it's don't be that child trapped in the sweet shop going, I want everything.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I think mood boards can be really sexy. I think they can be really fun. I think it can be a really nice way to start your wedding journey at the point where you've just got engaged and you're excited, and then you can share that and then you create it and then you can go back, but don't measure your wedding success against your mood board photos.
So use it as an inspiration rather than anything else.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
So key suppliers, this is a biggie, and perhaps the biggest of all is got to be the venue. So kick us off with venues.
Yeah, I think once you've got your venue, everything else can come together. So I think it's really important to get that right from the start or get an idea of it. So my advice would be start with a location. Have you got a location in mind? Do you live somewhere that you love? Are you from somewhere different that you want to explore? Do you want to elope? Anything? And when you're thinking about location, that will slightly determine the style of venue as well. And we talk about, in the last episode, we talked about thinking wider than traditional venues. So how about boats, breweries, yurt villages, your family home? It's one of my favourite venues. When I get to do a wedding in someone's family home, there's so much history, there's so much love, there's so much that people can enjoy about that. But that can be a really expensive way to get married. So don't be fooled by thinking doing it at home is cheaper, because your logistics can be a lot higher.
I see. Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
But a wedding can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
We did one together, didn't we, on the beach?
Oh, on the beach with hay bales to sit on. Absolutely magical.
Yeah.
Just nature right at the heart of it. Beautiful. But yes, you're absolutely right. You can get married anywhere you choose. And that really, your venue, the world is your oyster, really.
Yeah, and marquee suppliers fall into your venue as well, because if you know you're getting married in a field, you've got your local farmer and they've got a field and you think, yeah, that's exactly where I want to be. So your marquee supplier then becomes your venue. So you need to do a bit of research to understand what style of marquee you want, who is local to you, their availability, the costs, all the planning, and thinking it, if you're doing it in a marquee, have you got toilets? Have you got power?
Yeah, sure.
Have you got water? How do your caterers work? All of that. So venue is a really big one. And I think key questions to ask a venue when you start speaking to them is obviously their availability.
Yep.
The capacity, whether they've got recommended suppliers, and it is great. A lot of venues will have a recommended supplier list, and a lot of the time that means that they'll have worked together before, which is really lovely, because suppliers that work together know each other, it'll be a smoother process. On the flip side, if you've got a venue that will only allow you to use recommended suppliers, just make sure those suppliers are the suppliers that you really want.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get tied into a venue and then find out that, actually, you can only have Auntie Mavis from down the road's cakes when you don't want...
You might want Auntie Brenda's.
Exactly. So, yeah, you do have to understand what the restrictions are on a venue. Timings, like when can you get in to set up your venue? When do you have to clear up?
Yep.
That, I think, is one of the biggest things that people don't realise until afterwards. Do you want to be going into a venue the morning of your wedding, setting it all up, and then at the end of the night clearing it all away? I'd say no.
Not would be my response to that.
But that is sometimes the case.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't ask that question early enough in the process. By the time they do ask it, they've committed, and that's that sort of fait accompli.
Absolutely. And a stylist and a planner could then come in and help you, and on-the-day coordinator could help you make sure that stuff gets done.
Yeah.
But I think it can add quite a bit of stress. So I think
forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah. And then also ask them, have they got accommodation? What are the payment terms? What are your wet weather options?
That's a biggie.
Yeah. And yeah, what style of venue are you looking for? So it's a big one.
It is a big one, but I think one of the most exciting ones as well. But
absolutely. Once you've got your venue, everything else kind of comes together and falls into place.
Now we come on now to one that I think might be a little bit close to your own heart, my darling. Wedding planners. What do we need to know about wedding planners?
I don't know anything about wedding planners. No. So if you are considering a wedding planner, then should really be the first supplier you book, because that venue hunting bit can be done by your wedding planner or guided by your wedding planner, or your wedding planner can give you those questions you need to ask.
Sure.
And the wedding planner can guide you in all your other supplier choices as well. So it can save you a lot of time by telling a wedding planner the styles you're looking for, sharing your mood board.
Of course.
And they can go, do you know what? I know these suppliers that fit your vision, that are local to you, or do you know what? It might not be local, but it might be exactly the perfect person. So that's where a planner comes in. And a really good planner will listen to the areas that you want them to work on and support you where you need it, and let you do the bits you want to do and that you love doing as well.
Yeah. So what are the key questions that somebody considering a planner should be asking?
I think when you work with a planner, you've got to really like them as a person.
Yeah.
I think that is your starting point, is when you have an introductory call. And by the way, everyone should give you a free introductory call. You should see, actually, do I get on with them? Do I gel with that person? Because that person is who you're putting your trust into to make your wedding come to life. So I think, but without any questions, just the feel you get from that person.
So there's got to be a connection.
Yeah. You can also just have a look at their website, have a look at their socials, get a feel for what they've done before, how they've worked, and read their reviews, because that will tell you what other people have said about them. And that's the same with all your suppliers.
Yeah.
Check out the reviews.
Yeah. Well, the next one is Celebrant, and I think I might know a little bit about that.
Do you?
Just a little bit. But actually, it's remarkably similar to, I think, in that first instance, when you make contact to a planner, fundamentally with your celebrant, you really have to like them. The idea really is that by the day you get married, your celebrant, and I think your planner as well, you should feel like you're with trusted friends.
Yeah.
And so I think you're absolutely right. I think those two suppliers especially, you need to have that connection. And again, look at reviews. I still think word of mouth is one of the best recommendations you can have
Absolutely.
for suppliers. And certainly for celebrant services, an awful lot of my weddings come via that route. So I think that's, But a celebrant will make your ceremony really personal, really memorable, really you. It will be about celebrating you, your love story, and making sure that all the elements come together. So, for instance, if you are a multicultural couple and you want to acknowledge perhaps those different cultures, if you've got people that you particularly want to be involved, a celebrant will help you put all of that together so that it just comes together in one big sort of love, happy bubble.
When you're booking a celebrant, what do you think? What do people need to know? And also, we're going to talk about celebrants and we're going to talk about ceremonies in a couple of episodes' time. But can you have a celebrant? Who knows when you can have a celebrant? Where can you have a celebrant? Tell me.
Okay, so you can have a celebrant. A celebrant-led wedding celebration can happen absolutely anywhere. The venues we've just touched upon: boats, castles, yurts, horseback, wherever you like. Although not in a reptile house, you won't get me there. You want a different celebrant.
Well, I'm sure there is another celebrant that loves a reptile.
I'm sure there is, but it ain't me, baby. But yeah, so you can, the venue is limitless where you can actually have your ceremony. And a celebrant really will work with you from quite early on in the process. I would say that first meeting is really information gathering and getting to know you as a couple and what your vision for your ceremony is. And so actually your mood board to a degree is quite important there as well.
Yeah.
That can be really informative. And meeting you ideally in person is really helpful because it's about seeing how you interact with each other. Okay. And a lot of celebrants, I am one of them, provide a questionnaire, a couple's questionnaire. And I always say to a couple, don't overthink it. Just answer the questions, put the kettle on, open the wine, doesn't matter. But answer the questions because that's my shortcut to really getting to know you as individuals, as a couple, and finding out what underpins your relationship. So it's quite a thorough process.
And do you help people write their vows?
If they want me to, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Some couples like to do it entirely independently, and that's fine. But if they need a little bit of guidance and they kind of got a rough idea of what they want to say, but it's just perhaps articulating it, absolutely, I help them.
Love that. And I think I found when I wrote my vows, when I was talking to my celebrant about it, and I didn't want to share it. I didn't want my husband to know what my vows were going to be. So I kept that completely secret. But I think I also was quite confident in what I'd written. My husband, on the other hand, was like, I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to do here. So I think it's really helpful to have a professional there saying, do you know what? Do what you want.
Absolutely.
But here's some guidance. Here's some tips.
Yeah.
So, yeah, love that.
I think the most important thing when it comes to vow writing, and we'll go into this in more detail another time, but is to be authentic, to be you. And one of the most beautiful vows I ever heard from a groom who was lovely, but he just wasn't a wordy man. And his wife stood up and made some beautiful, beautiful promises. He stood up and just said, I don't know how to say what is in my heart, except I bloody love you and I want us to be together forever.
Oh.
not a dry eye in the house. It
I
wasn't.
know, you're making me go all goose pimply.
I know, and so Shakespeare it wasn't, but it was still absolutely perfect, and it was absolutely perfect for them. And that's what a celebrant should help you tease out, really. It should be, your wedding ceremony should be an absolutely true reflection of who you are and a celebration of who you are.
Yeah, I love it.
So there's all sorts of things you can ask a celebrant, but again, a bit like a planner, book early, just really to start building that relationship, I would say.
Cool.
We move on now to another really important one, photographer and videographer.
Yeah, so first things first, do you want both? I am really of the opinion that photography and videography is so key because it's what you have after your wedding.
Yeah.
And there's so many bits that you don't get to see on the day, that if you've got your photographer there and they're catching moments of your guests or you having a lovely time, but you don't get to see all of that on the day because you're doing all the things, you're having a lovely time, you're speaking to different people, and when you get your photos back you go, oh my god, yeah, that happened, or so-and-so was doing that, or did you see so-and-so playing cricket and they smashed that one out of the park, and things like that. But yeah, deciding first whether you want a videographer and a photographer. And also, I guess we should probably put content creators into that category as well, because they're on the rise. That's the biggest trend coming in for the next couple of years, is content creation. So I think you need to understand your style first.
Okay.
And then you can go through, and there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of fantastic people, but the style of photography, and that's again either speaking to a photographer first to understand what different styles are, or speaking to your planner and saying, this is the style we're after. Who do I know? What do I need? But yeah, I think asking a photographer about their style, asking about posed photos, because I know a lot of people go, we don't want any posed photos. Absolutely fine. Some photographers will say, great, that's fine. That I don't really work on posed photos. Others will say, actually, yeah, that's what I do and that's how I do it. And I think it's important to have an understanding of what photos are important to you.
Okay.
When you get your photos back, do you want to know that you've got a photo of all your family all together? Or is that not what you want? You want to see people just having a laugh. So it's all to do with that style.
And actually, if you do want a photo of all your family together for posterity, it will by default have to be a posed photo, because otherwise you're not going to gather everyone together.
No.
So,
and you can have fun posed photos. I think one of my favourite wedding photos, me and my bridesmaids, and I just went, oh, I want to stand on that picnic bench over there. And we all stood on the top of a picnic bench and jumped off. That was a posed photo. A posed photo doesn't always have to be a Victorian era.
Yeah, it's the preconception of that, isn't it? We're all standing there with hands clasped. Yeah, gotcha.
So, yeah, we need to have a think about what's in the packages with the photographer, and always check with them how soon you'll get your images back as well, just so that you can manage your expectations.
Fair dues. Now, floristry is another big one. And what do we need to know about floristry?
Florists are wizards. They are actual.
They are. They really are.
They can just change the whole feel of your day. They can make everything look a bit more magical. Some of the questions to ask them, depending on what's important to you, but do they work with local growers? And what kind of colours and styles at the time of year that you're getting married? When do they deliver your flowers? Do they stay? Do they put them in place? Do they go? How sustainable are they? And let's be honest, floristry is not always the most sustainable, but I know most florists I speak to are trying their absolute utmost, and they are bringing in new ways of working to be more sustainable. Can they provide the hire items? Can they provide the vases? Can they provide all the bits and pieces that go around their flowers? But florists are wizards. And
that's a fact.
Yeah,
official now.
Yeah. And doing your own flowers, DIYing your own flowers is an option.
Yeah.
But don't underestimate how hard it is.
Yeah. So do that with your eyes open and really having a clear understanding of what's involved.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. Well, from flowers to food and, of course, drink by default, caterers.
I mean, food's the best. I think if people listen to the podcast over and over again, each episode I'll probably talk about food because it's my favourite thing.
Mine too.
But yeah, when you're talking about caterers, it's just about your style again. So going back to that mood board, going back to your initial ideas, finding out kind of, do you want a sit-down plated meal? Do you want family style sharing, which is probably the most popular at the moment, where everyone sits on the table, there's dishes placed down, everyone digs in. I love that style because I think people can pick what they would like to eat and the amount they would like to eat as well. And I think you do
I haven't thought about that. Actually, that's a good point.
And you do seem to get less wastage from a family style sharer. So if that's important to you, that's worth thinking about. Food trucks, you don't have to have a sit down meal at all. You do not have to have a table plan. You can just have a lovely food truck, a picnic. Yeah, so it's different. There's different caterers for different styles, and a lot of caterers will offer lots of different styles. So have you thought about the timings in your day as well? Because when it comes to weddings, the longer your day is, the more you need to feed people.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what you said in our first episode about guest experience. So
Absolutely.
It's really worth keeping that in mind.
Yeah. So more hours equals more food equals more budget. Just think about that. But questions you want to ask your caterers, obviously you want to see their menus. If you haven't seen the menu, then you've got no idea.
Yeah.
And just finding out what their quote involves, especially if you're having, again, a marquee wedding and there isn't a kitchen there. So what equipment costs are there? Are they going to take the rubbish away? Because that is one of the things people forget time after time.
Yeah.
How do you dispose of your rubbish? And do they offer a bar service? Because we'll touch on bars a bit more, but are you having your own bar? Is there a bar at your venue? Do they need to cover that? Can they do bespoke menus? Will they create a menu just for you if your budget allows?
Ooh.
So lots of different bits and pieces, but catering to me, photography, catering, how your ceremony is, all those things are so important. And I feel bad because I feel like there are so many other key suppliers, but I think that's covered the main ones.
Fair enough. Ducks are in a row.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
So each episode, we're going to give you some little tips. So we'll always do a sustainability tip, and Vicky's going to tell us about her tip.
Well, this is one that I came across a couple of years ago, actually at a wedding, and I thought it was just beautiful. So the place cards that were in front of everyone for dinner with their names on, really lovely, sort of postcard size, folded in two, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
I think so.
And they had a friend of theirs do beautiful calligraphy, very simple, but really beautiful. And they decided to reuse those as a sort of guest book. And they asked everybody during dinner, please just write us a little message, a little note. Just, it could be your thoughts and wishes for us as we go forth into married life. It could be just that you're having a nice time. It could be whatever you like. And the kids, if you want to draw something, draw something. But they left space on the reverse of the place names for people to do just that.
I love that.
And then they put them all in a beautiful vintage suitcase that had belonged to, I think, the groom's grandma, who was no longer with us. But she had been a sort of prolific letter writer and postcard writer. And it was just a really nice way to include her in the day. Her suitcase became a sort of postbox.
I love that, because also, what do you do with your place cards? Once someone's seen where they're sitting, they've looked at their name, what happens with them?
Yeah.
I know generally if I have a pretty place card, I'll normally take it home, but then
what?
What am I doing with it?
It's on the fridge under a magnet for just sort of 12 months until it gathers dust and you sling it.
Also, I know my name, so I don't need it at home.
Yeah. But no, I thought that was genuinely a really beautiful thing. And again, context, I think, in weddings is a really important thing. And the groom got up and explained what would happen to them, where the suitcase was. And he said, I remember him saying, we've chosen Granny's suitcase because she had so much love in her heart. And it was just a really sort of like, moment. It was really, really beautiful. But I tucked that away sort of up my knicker leg because I thought that's a really nice little sustainability tip that I think also has real beauty to it.
I think that's gorgeous. I love it. And I think it's over to you again. You're going to tell us about DIY.
Well, I am. And I'm not a particularly natural baker, but I thought it would be useful to touch on favours. And the origin of favours, if you don't know, historically, 5 sugared almonds. I'm not sure anyone actually likes sugared almonds, actually.
No, and I
can't
never
bear
knew
them.
it was 5. So, yeah.
So 5, and they were given to guests as wedding favours, and it dates back apparently to ancient Rome, where 5 honey-dipped almonds were served at really high-profile weddings to bless a couple with health, wealth, happiness, fertility and a long life. So that's the origin of favours.
And I really quite like the story behind that. I really like the fact that you're celebrating the health, the wealth, the happiness.
Yeah.
It's how you can do that without sugared almonds.
Ah, come on, Keshira, cop on. You like to cook. So I would say the obvious answer to that for DIY is just get your bake on. You know, it doesn't have to be sugared almonds. You could make 5 little truffles, 5 beautifully handmade pieces of shortbread, or little iced biscuits, or, you know, whatever you felt minded
Can I
to
make
put in.
slow gin?
Yes, if you wanted 5 little bottles of slow gin, or just,
I don't know about 5.
or just one. It doesn't, you know, that's the origin of favours. But, you know, you don't have to have 5. The sentiment of wishing a couple, all of those things can be condensed into one little bottle of slow gin. But I think anything that you can make, there's some, I think, a really touching kind of shows effort.
Yeah.
And we attended a wedding last year where the groom is a Scottish tradition made tablet for everyone, which was really nice, except the kids got hold of it and were wired on it by the end of the day.
That is sugar, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is pure sugar.
But there's lots of different ways that you can home make your favours, and I think that's a really nice place to put that sort of DIY touch into your wedding.
Good DIY tip, thank you. And then we are always going to have each episode, we are going to have a top wedding tip from a supplier. So this episode, our tip comes from Tony Todd. So it's Tony Todd, hair and makeup artist. And I'm going to let you listen to what she's got to say.
My top tip is to make sure that you're all prepared the night before your wedding morning. So make sure your skincare's done, your hair washing's done, and your dresses are all steamed and prepped the night before so that you can relax on your wedding morning.
Thank you so much, Tony. That was really, really interesting and
Fabulous.
really lovely to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, that's just about us done for this episode. So we're going to say cheery bye. But if you'd like to find us in the meantime, you'll find us lurking on Spotify and Apple. You can find the first episode there as well. So tune in and download. Also, do give us a follow on Insta at Wildly Wed Pod. And then I'm going to tease you now with what's coming in our next episode. Brace yourselves, strap in, because we're going venue hunting. And we'll also be creating a timeline for the day, although that's going to be very much your domain, Miss Keshira.
Can't wait. I will see you there.
See you there.
Say I do to the Wildly Wed podcast. Follow us on Insta at Wildly Wed Pod.